Hey, Dooberteers, welcome back to the program. My guest today is somebody who's been in animal welfare for a long time, right? Actually, like 18 years. And one of
Yeah.
the things that's fascinating to me, not only is she the executive director running a vibrant, humane society, she also has, let me get this right, 7 dogs, 7 cats, 7 kids, and a bunch of farm animals. And of course, a husband, partner that, take care of some of those things during the day. So, Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to have you here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and about your organization, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. So my name is Ashley. I'm the executive director of We Care Animal Rescue. We're here in St. Helena, California. I took over the shelter about, 4.5 years ago now. When I took over, it was a sanctuary that had about 250 cats. Maybe 10 of them were available for adoption, but the main goal was they were going to spend their life here. We were going to provide all the care, which was lovely. But I realized if we change this into a robust adoption center and community resource center, we can save so many lives. So over the last 4 years, we have kind of transformed our mission into an adoption center. We now serve dogs, cats, rabbits. We've had a few guinea pigs come through. We have the stray contract for our city and now our neighboring city, and we're down to one sanctuary animal who don't tell is actually coming with me next week because I just feel like she needs to live out her final days in a home. So yeah, that's We Care in a nutshell.
Wow, it sounds like you've really changed and transformed the organization a lot in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and not just me. I have an amazing team. We're a staff of about 11 people here. We have office manager, shelter manager, a volunteer coordinator, and then some amazing kennel techs that help keep literally everything going. We could not do anything without the kennel tech.
Yeah,
We have a great team that's done a lot.
that's really cool. Now, you mentioned a couple of times because really you're trying to build a community resource, and that's something I always find is super important these days. A shelter should not be a prison off to the side. It should be part of the community. So tell us about some of the programs and how you integrate and serve your community.
Yeah. I think being in this industry so long, what's really changed is who is surrendering their pets and the reason why. Back in the day when I started, animal shelters were kind of just a catch-all. Oh, I don't really want this dog anymore. It's not working out. I'm moving. But, how we feel as animals in the society has kind of changed. So I think people are feeling a lot different about their animals and are realizing that these are a part of their family. So now the owner surrenders we're seeing are, I can't afford food. I can't afford medical care. Things that are really heartbreaking that we can solve that problem. So we have a pet food pantry that's open to the community 7 days a week. We don't ask anything except for a zip code and what animals you're feeding just for grant writing purposes. But if somebody doesn't feel comfortable giving that, we'll still give them food. We offer emergency medical grants paid directly to veterinarians so people can get help for their animals in emergencies when they weren't expecting something like that. We offer monthly pop-up clinics where we do free wellness care, so vaccines, microchips, deworming. We offer free training classes, and we really get creative. If we don't have something that's set in stone or in writing, but somebody needs our help, we're going to try to figure out a way to make that happen because we want pets to stay with their people.
Yeah, I really love that. And I think, as you said, I mean, you think about your time in animal welfare and the mindset really has changed, right? It used to be I much more judgy, and I feel like now it's much more open and trying to connect and say, what can we do so that you can keep the animal? Because we know how important the human animal bond is. I've always said that when people have to surrender their animal, it's like the hardest day of their life, right? They've already exhausted every knowledgeable resource that they have. And when they show up on your doorstep, they've kind of, mentally prepared themselves. So being able to reach into the community and say, listen, we can help you with food, we can help you with medical, we can help you with all these things really just encourages them to keep the animals in the first place.
Exactly. And when we can't find an answer, we still are that safe haven. But those answers are really big. The owners are getting deported. That's something we're seeing quite often. We're not able to fix that. And that's really hard on all of us, but at least we know we can be a place for that animal when they come in.
So Ashley, take us back. I mean, you've been in animal welfare for 18 years. I mean, was this always something you knew you wanted to do? Did you go to school for this? I mean, what was your story?
Yeah. So funny story. I am a high school dropout who got a GED at 28 years old because I decided I was going to leave animal rescue. And the job I needed required a GED. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to go take it. And I passed the first time. And then life happened and I actually landed this job at We Care, and it restored my love for animal rescue and I stayed. But no, at 18 years old, I grew up in a very small town in Northern California. Same 30 kids that I went to school with since kindergarten. I was bored, hence dropping out of high school and trying to figure something else out for my life. So at 18, I packed my bags with a friend who was moving to El Paso, Texas, which, if you know anything about animal sheltering, Texas is still a hard place to be an animal. 18 years ago, it was really rough. And what did my mom say? Oh, you're 18, you're moving to another state. I'm sure you'll be back in a couple months. Do not adopt an animal. She told me. I grew up in a household that had a lot of animals. My mom had animals. I knew she was just envisioning, 18-year-old Ashley coming back with a Saint Bernard or something. So where was I 3 days after I moved? I was at El Paso Animal Care and Control going, hi, I'm 18 years old and I just moved here and I don't even have everything unpacked, but I would really like to adopt a dog. And they kind of were like, okay, dumb 18-year-old kid, let's redirect you to foster. And so I walk in and there's this little tiny dog in a cat cage. She's a Pomeranian Papillon mix named Fluffy at the time. And he had broken pelvis. And they were like, this dog just needs cage rest. You can try it out. We'll give you all the supplies. Great. I'm 18. I'm completely broke. This sounds wonderful. Well, this dog was a medical nightmare. And I was at the shelter probably 3 times a week. And I made a joke one day. I said, hey, I'm here so much. You guys want to give me a job? And she said, yeah, can you start tomorrow? And I said, haha. She goes, no, serious. I need somebody. This was this little rescue that had opened up inside the municipal shelter and was trying to, help them out. And I said, what is it? What would I have to do? And she goes, everything. I need you to be a tech, clean. I need you to do adoptions. We do pop-up clinics on the weekends. It's $25 half a day and $50 for a whole day. And so I said, okay, this is my first time having to pay bills. Have no idea that is not a wage that you can live off. So quickly found a second job, but I spent every moment that I wasn't sleeping or working my other job at that animal shelter. And I got so engrossed and I learned so many things from so many people and just continued that throughout my career, just finding people that knew what they were doing, learning from them. But sheltering was so different back then. We would get probably 100 animals every day. We believed that euthanizing cats that had FIV and FELV was the humane thing to do because we truly believed they were going to suffer a slow, miserable death. There wasn't protocols to keep puppies safe and away from parvo. Underage animals definitely weren't safe in the shelter. We didn't have these robust foster programs. But I will say, everybody was trying to get towards that. The reason I was there so much is because I was surrounded by this group of like-minded individuals who also were like, we have this huge problem. How do we fix it? And I stalk that shelter religiously now. And I know that they're at no-kill standards. They have this super high alive release rate. And I'm just, I have nothing to do with that now. It's been years and years, but I'm so proud every time that little El Paso has come so far because it was a hard place to start. And it gave me a lot of respect for everybody in the sheltering world.
I was going to say, it sounds like they really threw you in the deep end. They basically said, which is pretty much the norm, you're going to do everything, right? So just be prepared for what comes next.
Yeah. And I had no idea, now I'm looking at things. We were so poor. We were washing reusable syringes and sterilizing them because otherwise we wouldn't have enough to make it through the week. And that was just my normal at 18. That's just how I started. You do the very best you can. If the animal is fed, cleaned, getting veterinary care, you figure everything else out. And I think that was so valuable because I've carried that through animal rescue my whole career. If you get the basics covered, you can figure the rest out.
Yeah, everything is figure outable, right? You gotta be tenacious. You got to pivot a lot. You got to be creative sometimes. So where did your journey take you from there? So that was kind of like your foray into it. Obviously, you found your passion, you found your tribe, you found your people. What happened next?
Yeah, after that, so my now ex-husband, but at the time my husband, he was in the military. So I worked there for a couple of years and then he got stationed in New Orleans. So I went to the New Orleans SPCA. I worked there as an adoption counselor. That was kind of the next step up. I started at this municipal shelter. Now I'm at a, 501c3 that has donors and fancy buildings. But the same problems were there. They had a community that needed a lot of support. They had a lot of stray animals coming in, some that were not adoptable, not enough resources, not enough time, not enough money. But to me, I was in this, magical world of they had dog yards and animal control officers 24/7. So to me, it was this huge step up. And it was, but animal shelters still have problems. From there, he got restationed again, and we went up to Seattle, and I went to the Seattle Humane, where I ran the cat foster program for many years. And that place was truly magical, had a lot of resources, and Seattle was just this magical city that everything was very pet friendly. So you could, go into the mall and bring your dog. So there was a lot of people looking to adopt, very pet friendly. And then after that, we separated. And so I moved back home, where I was with the Humane Society of Sonoma County for 8 years. And I probably had every single job in that shelter at one point or another. I ran the cat program, I ran adoptions, but most of my time was spent in foster. I have a huge love for fostering and volunteers. So I always try to, pivot back to that. And then I came to We Care, and now I've been here, and I've done various, volunteering positions and little stints at little rescues here and there. But those are my big main places.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had a lot of great experiences that really just helped shape you. So tell us, where does your leadership style come from? How do you lead a team in this very compassion-filled industry?
Yeah. It's funny because I learned, like I said, from the industry's best. Like, I've gotten to surround myself with so many amazing people that are so good at their job and are creative. And through them, they connect me with other people. I always feel like I'm that annoying person that's like, I have another question. I have another question. Can I ask you this? Can you please tell me this? Can I follow you to this? Can I do this? But that's how I've learned. But on that same page, I've learned a lot of what not to do. I've had leaders that do things that I'm just like, man, if I ever got in that position, I would never do that. And I think the biggest thing is learning that I'm just one person. I can do a lot, but I really need to find like-minded individuals and build up this amazing team, which is what I've done here at We Care. I couldn't do anything without any one of these people here. And a lot of that is making sure that they feel supported. They're short-staffed, jumping in and helping them. We lead once a month, just fun activities. Our office manager puts on something. It might be, carving pumpkins in October, decorating stockings in December. We had a tie-dyeing party, just something for an hour a month. We can eat a bunch of junk food. We can sit around and do something silly, and we can just kind of be ourselves, talk about, the good and the bad things that have happened. And I think that's such an important thing. You can't just constantly push your staff and expect them to go, 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 go without realizing how hard this industry is. And it's an emotional roller coaster, right? You can be, I'm so excited. This cat that's been here for 8 months finally got adopted. Like, congratulations, let's take your picture. That person walks out. Then my staff member turns around and is, I'm so sorry that you couldn't find pet-friendly housing for your 100-pound dog that you've had for 8 years. You had to choose to house your children over your pet. Well, of course, take in your beloved pet and find it a home. Like, it's an emotional roller coaster. So just taking time to recognize that and let staff kind of process that, I think, is so important.
Yeah, I've described to people working in a shelter environment, I said the closest analogy I can give you is think about like an ER. You just never know what's coming in the door next. And like you said, 1 minute you have an adoption, then you have a surrender, then you have, some sort of abuse case or a sick animal. Like, it could be anything. Somebody, brings their pets in, and you've got to be prepared. And it sounds like you really learned along the way to be prepared for everything that's unexpected.
Yeah. I think that's the only way, I guess you can say, you can be prepared, is to just prepare for the unexpected. And the other thing too is, we're humans. Sometimes those emotions don't hit us in the moment. Sometimes I see a cat that reminded me of that cat that I love so much. And now, I have to step away for 5 minutes because I'm sobbing. And just making sure that everybody feels supported through that and that we're all human. I think people get into this field because they are very compassionate and they do feel things very hard. And so that makes that all so much more complex when we're dealing with such emotional situations.
Yeah, it is hard, right? Compassion fatigue is the label we put on it. And it is a thing, and it can wear on you, and it's important. So how do you motivate? How do you handle those situations with your staff? Because I can imagine, animals dying, euthanasia having to happen. Like, there's all sorts of situations that just really put a drain.
Yeah, I'm really transparent and say, I have no idea what I'm doing, you guys. This sucks. I'm really honest with it. We've had all the compassion workshops. We go to the things, take a moment, have a space, do things for yourself. But compassion fatigue is still out there. People are still, suicide rates around animal shelter workers are similar to those of first responders. It's still happening. So that leads me to believe we're not doing the right thing. So I tell my team, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's just try everything. Let's try these fun ideas. We survey our staff quarterly to just kind of get a anonymous check-in of how they're feeling. And I think, that can be a really good time. But just trying things with them and being honest and telling them, I've been in places too where I thought I was going to have to leave this industry, or maybe I've needed to take a couple weeks off. Do that. We're all human.
No, I think that's really important. Transparency and communication. You're not a magic person, right? Like you said, sometimes you're like, I don't have the answer. I don't know what to do. So let's talk through it. Let's figure it out. Let's come at it with the best information we have. Certainly there's research and stuff, but that doesn't always apply. Every community, every situation is very different. So I'm curious, Ashley, if you had a time machine, you could go back to your younger self, what advice would you give her?
Be more outspoken sooner. I think when I started in this, I was surrounded by people for good reasons. I think that's something that's hard about animal rescue is everybody comes at this with good intent, no matter what they're doing. But there's a lot of disagreements about how to do things. And when I started in this, it was, be very polite, be very cautious what you put out to the public. We want them to know only the happy sides of that. I don't think we should. I think we should be very transparent about what's happening in rescue, what's happening in shelters, because that's the only way we're going to get the community to rally around us and really support. You need to know that at kitten season, we're overflowing, and some shelters are euthanizing kittens because they don't have enough foster homes, because maybe that's what it'll take for our community to step up and foster. We definitely want to paint the good pictures and celebrate every victories, but I think it's really important to be outspoken about all the things that are happening in animal welfare.
That's a really good point. I mean, every community is different, right? But there's a lot of common situations. What is the situation like in the community for animals where you are?
We're really lucky. We're in this, St. Helena is a very small area. A lot of people have second homes here. The Napa Valley has a pretty good handle on animal care. And there's a lot of good resources in the area. So aside from us, there's several other local rescues that have programs available. We have a sliding scale spay-neuter clinic. That being said, we're in California. We're in one of the hardest states for animals to exit a shelter alive. So the county next to us, polar opposite. They're getting tons of animals every day. They don't have enough resources. They don't have a community that has resources to support them. So that's kind of where we go from here, is our community is taken care of. So now we have started branching out to our neighboring community to help them. Not to say that everything's perfect in our own community, but we have a really good handle. We know where to direct people.
Yeah, I like that though. I mean, we're all in this together, right? And we have to figure out if everybody's doing the exact same thing, it's never going to work. So you've got to pool resources, you got to share, you got to help each other. I mean, it's just one of those things that we're a common mission, but there's 5,000 shelters across the country, right? And every community, like you said, even though you're neighboring communities, it can still be slightly different. And while you're thriving, they're struggling, not for any fault of their own, but just based upon geography.
Yeah, exactly. And you hit the nail right on the head when you said not everybody can do everything. I mean, in my magical world, we would focus on what we're good at. The other rescue would just do spay neuter because they're really good at that. Somebody would do sliding scale veterinary care. Somebody would do field services. And that would just be the dream situation, instead of all of us applying for the same grant, trying to do the same thing on a smaller scale. Oh, I would love that so much.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. It's hard, right? Because in some ways, I think shelters often try to compete with one another, which is perplexing to me, but I get it, right? Everybody has limited resources, their own goals and things like that. But there's much more if we can collaborate together and share and say, look, you focus here, we'll focus there, and we'll both be helping. Because at the end of the day, it's about helping people and the animals that they care about. And that's why we exist, right? That's our goal, is to get them and keep them into loving homes.
Exactly. We have started to do some collaboration here with another nonprofit in the area that actually helps people fleeing domestic violence. by making sure their pet can go with them. And so we, in this roundabout way, have started partnering with them and actually hosting monthly wellness clinics for the community. Their goal was to access people that might not feel comfortable coming into a domestic violence shelter, but might feel comfortable coming to a clinic and saying, yes, I need some help. Our goal was to get all the animals vaccinated, microchipped, and do preventative care. We get to the end by the same way, having free, affordable clinics. If we pool our resources, we can see twice as many animals. So we've been doing that for about a year now. We see about 50 animals every month, and it's been so huge.
Yeah, I really love the fact that you're, I guess I'll call it innovating, right? You're thinking through what are the next programs. I mean, as you said, things 20 years ago versus today, even 4 years, 5 years ago versus today, things are different and your programs have to evolve and mature. Sure, you can still have a foster program, but the way you run it today may be very different than what you did 5 years ago. And you've got to morph and pivot with the changing times.
Exactly. And I think we don't give the general public enough credit. Perfect example is when I was at my last shelter, we used to adopt out animals that might have conditions like hyperthyroidism. Sure. And we would say, we'll provide you meds for the rest of this animal's life, along with yearly blood work and anything else that might be a complication of hyperthyroidism. Sounds great for the adopter, sounds great for the shelter, $35 a month, maybe $100 every 3 to 6 months until that cat is 18 years old. And now you're providing all the end of life care where everything could technically be related to hyperthyroidism. So we made this big jump to go away from that and just say, hey, community, we need your help. If we're going to keep saving medical animals, we will get them to a place where they are stable, they have a good plan, and then we need you to take over care. And everybody was like, oh, I don't know if it's going to work. This is really scary. Stepped up tenfold. There was no question in their mind. They were just like, we can't believe you ever did this. We thought it was great. Like, first we would take over medical care of our own animals. And something that seemed so scary to us was so simple to the public. And I think we try so hard to protect the public and not give them enough credit. Like, coming into an animal shelter to adopt a dog, chances are, or a cat, you're probably a decent person just for showing up. Like, let's give you whatever tools that you might need and offer you any support we can. Might not be everything, and that's okay. We don't have to do everything. So just really putting it out to the public.
No, that's really cool. And I think the word that came to mind as you're talking about that is try it, right? Like, try it and pivot. If it doesn't work, you pivot and you try something else. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is, okay, you guys, our worst fears were right. Okay, got it. So now we try something different and see where this goes.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm always, trying to tell anybody, any new leaders that are coming up, anybody that's new to this industry, if they say, what piece of advice can you give me? I'm like, just try it. Think through the worst thing. The worst thing's probably not going to be that bad. It might mean a little extra cleaning. It might mean, finding a new kennel for an animal, something. But usually it's going to be okay. And I would say 9 times out of 10, things work out. Just try it. Be flexible. I think sheltering is not black and white. It's many shades of gray. And if you get stuck in that black and white, you're not good to yourself. You're not good to the animals, and you're not good to the community.
No, very well said. So actually, as we start kind of wrapping up and coming to the end, I always like to do a lightning round where we just a bunch of questions where we can learn a little bit more about you and have some fun. So you ready?
Yeah.
All right, you got to pick one. Do you prefer kitten purrs or puppy breath?
Oh, kitten purrs. I worked with fosters for a really long time, and the joke at the shelter was, it's not kitten season until Ashley's running through the hall going with a tiny kitten in my hand. So definitely kittens.
Yeah, it's like energy, right? Like, it just seeps into your body, the kitten purr.
Yeah. And like a kitten uses the litter box. A puppy doesn't. I'm good for a puppy for like a couple days until a long-term foster, or just to smell the puppy breath. I do love the 5 seconds of puppy breath.
Yeah, exactly. Are you more of an early bird or a late night owl?
I'm neither. I'm like really good from like 9 to 8.
Okay, so you're right in the middle. That's fine.
Yeah.
If you had to describe your shelter staff in one word, what would it be?
Amazing.
Good word. Very true.
They're the best.
I know you have, 14 animals, plus kids, plus farm animals, but so let's just say the cats and the dogs got together and they were writing a Yelp review about you as a pet owner. How many stars do you think you'd get?
Yeah, probably three because they're really sick of the ridiculous songs that I make up and sing to them every time we do anything. There's the going outside song, there's the dinner song. We have a cat named Tofu, so there's the tofu song. There's a song when one of the dogs gets the zoomies. So I think they really love their life, except for my terrible singing to them.
So they're saying no 5 stars for you because you won't stop singing.
Yeah.
Hey, I do the same for mine. I don't think I would do any better. That's a good reason. They like everything except the singing and the songs and the craziness, even though they live
Yeah.
a nice life, a lap of luxury.
Yeah. They're so spoiled. Sometimes I look at them and go, do you know how bad some animals have it?
I have this conversation in mind, and they just kind of look at me like, yeah, get back to petting me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it.
Exactly. I'm still going to knock this cup off the counter.
Yeah, you're not paying enough attention. You watch what I'm going to do to get your attention.
Yep.
My last question for you is, what do you want your legacy to be?
Just for the next generation to try it, to try new things, to not be afraid, and to really involve youth in what you do. Because I think animal shelter, we get focused on the animals, and we're not training the next generation of animal rescuers. And as you mentioned, I have 7 kids. Some of those kids have come through the foster system into my home and thought that they, had no future. And animal rescue is something that's opened up a whole new world to them. So just sharing that gift with the youth and trying new things.
I think that's an amazing legacy and really smart words, right? Like to keep thinking about how do we foster this and grow this. And, we're not going to solve the problem this year, next year, or the year after. So thinking about what's next in the next generation. So very well said. Well, Ashley, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing and talking about everything you do. And it's been fun to have you.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much for having me.